Alright, so this is the solution video for the Tone Analyzer Lab. So to start off, we're going to be in the dashboard. We're going to go to Catalog, Watson on the left side, and then Tone Analyzer. And then from here, make sure you're in the right organization and space, and click Create. And so after a minute, the service will be created for you. Alright, now we need the credentials, so go ahead and click on Service Credentials on the left side. And if you don't have credentials listed in the Service Credentials table already, go ahead and click New Credentials. Click Add. And then you'll get some credentials added. Then you want to click on View Credentials and copy the credentials that appear and save that into a separate Word doc. I'm not going to show you my credentials right now, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Pause the video and do that, and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright, so now we need to go back to our code editor and open up our project files. And so now we need to add our credentials to the service credentials file. So to do that, you're going to open the service-credentials.json file, and there's just a quick property you have to add, and so I'm going to show you how to do this in the example.json file. Again, you're going to want to do this in your real service-credentials.json file, but for the purposes of the solution video, so I don't show you my credentials, I'm going to do it to this file. So you're going to input a comma there, and then you're going to paste in the lines from the lab doc, and that should be your service credentials file. Be sure that you have the comma in there, just past the previous curly brace, and then you're going to go ahead and fill out the username and password from the credentials that we copied earlier. So I'm going to do that to my real service credentials.json file, and I'll be back when I'm done. Alright, so once you've done that, once you've added your credentials and saved the file, we can go back to the app.js file. And so now we need to create our Tone Analyzer object. And so we did this for conversation and discovery in the previous lab. So we're going to go down to about just around line 40. You can see our previous to conversation and discovery object. So we're going to go ahead and just enter a few lines below the discovery object, and we're going to paste in the code from the lab doc. And that's going to create the Tone Analyzer object, and that we're going to use that to actually call the Watson Tone Analyzer service. Alright, so next we're going to scroll to the very bottom, and this is where our function declarations are. These are the functions that we use throughout the code. And so there's one more function declaration that we copy from the lab. Copy that, paste it here. And so we have this new function called getReviewText. And so now we're going to scroll up to our conditionals that we created earlier. If you remember, these conditionals are just a bunch of if-else statements. So now we're going to find the conditional that says else if context.hotel. And so for me, it's going to be line 186. Could be different for you though, but it'll be somewhere around there. Just make sure you're on the else if context.hotel section. Alright, so once you found this section, we're going to scroll down, and you should see these three lines, the chosen hotel, the two IO omit lines. Go ahead and copy those three lines and put them in a separate Word document. We'll be needing those later. And then you can go ahead and delete those for now. And now we can call the getReviewText function that we declared earlier. So go ahead and copy that from the lab document and go ahead and paste it here, just where we deleted those lines. Should be right under these two if statements. And so now you have a call to the getReviewText function. And then in the callback, we're going to be adding some code. So basically just under this if statement, we're going to add some more code. And this is going to call the tone analyzer service. And then we have another code block to copy. This is going to go right under the if error statement here, under tone analyzer. And so now we have some code that will actually go through the identified tones in the tone analyzer response and get you the relevant tones. And so now we're going to scroll to the bottom of the code that we just pasted in. You should see this for loop with 2 if statements inside of it. Make sure you find the end of the for loop. And then just under that, we're going to paste in those 3 lines that we copied earlier. So I want to add those 3 lines back in. And so now we need to add one more line to actually output the results of the tone analyzer to the chat. So this line that we're adding here, add it to the very bottom of the, add it just below those 3 lines you just pasted in. So it's going to be right under the io.emit statements. Go ahead and paste that in. And that's just going to be another io.emit statement to actually include the detected tones in the chat response. All right. And so once you're done with that, go ahead and save and then push your application. All right, once the application is done pushing, we're going to go to our browser and actually go to our running application. So if you remember, the running application is just going to be the host name that you created in the manifest.yml file. And then .mybluemix.net. All right, once you're in your application again, we're going to go ahead and try out a few questions. And so these questions are just listed in the lab doc. You can go ahead and ask whatever questions you'd like. In addition to these, and it's going to take a little bit because Watson has to gather all the review text. And as you can see, it came up with this extra line here. The detected tones include joy, with joy being the most apparent emotional tone, with a confidence of 66%. And so we're only listing tones if they're above 40% confidence. So let's go ahead and try next question. It's going to give you a similar response for each hotel. It's going to give you the total reviews, positive and negative. We set that up in the last lab, but this lab we added this line, which includes the detected tones and the confidence rating of that tone. And then, so lastly, we can just do just to show you a little different one here. So the detected tones in this one include disgust, fear, joy, sadness, and with fear being the most apparent. Basically, it's all over the place. These reviews included all these tones. Yeah, and so that's pretty much it. You can ask whatever other questions you'd like. Try out the other hotels and see what responses you get. And so that's it for the lab.